Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the 808 podcast where we interview business owners, CEOs, marketing people, whoever else I feel like. 4 questions in 8 minutes and 8 seconds because 808 looks like Bob. And here we go. Question number 1 in a few sentences. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Charles Koon. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Sellers Arena. We're an agency that sells lots of products through Amazon.
Boom, right into the point. Love it. Question number 2. Charles, what advice do you want to share? Go.
So number one thing I see with people starting to optimize or work on their Amazon is that they spend a ton of money in traffic and they're like, man, why aren't my ads converting? And it's because the content on the page looks terrible. So I want to take a couple of minutes and tell everybody how to fix that, right?
Mhm.
So for starters, it doesn't matter what you think is good. It matters what the numbers say is good. So in your account under reports, business reports, there's a page on the left-hand side that's going to say detailed page ASIN sales and traffic.
Mhm.
Click that. That's going to give you a number on the right called unit session percentage. That is the flat number of your how many people are converting. So if that number says 5%, you're converting 5 people out of 100. An average on Amazon is 9.7, but if you get something put together well, it'll convert at around 15%. What the difference between that means is you're literally paying half of your ad costs. And if you go from 10 to 15, you're giving yourself a 50% sales bump on that item. So here is how to do this. For starters, if you do not have a piece of content called brand registry, it is a piece of content that goes right below the details, and it's usually various amounts of images coupled with some text. That's the first thing. Just having that on there alone has been proven to increase your conversions 3 to 5 flat percent. If you don't have that, just slapping something on there can get you an extra 30 or 50% sales, depending on what you were converting at before.
Right.
The next question is the page on Amazon, it's a sales page. This is a sales pitch. You don't get to talk to these folks. You're never going to get to speak to them. So this is all the information they need to know to buy your product. There's a couple of questions everybody's going to have no matter what you're selling, and they need those things answered before they're going to buy the product. How do you know what those questions are? Look at the people who answered them. Go on to other Amazon pages, the top 3-4 listings, and click on that, and there's a section that says questions.
Mhm.
Just like when we were all in kindergarten, when we were all in high school, when somebody has a question, one person asks it, probably half the class or more had that question, but they didn't bother to answer. In econ terms, that means for every one person who asks a question, you could expect easily 50 to 100 or more people had that question and did not buy because it wasn't answered. So look for commonalities in the questions posted on that. If people ask, hey, is this durable? Make sure you highlight that in the photos, not the A+ content. You need infographics, put that in the photos. If they're asking how long is the battery life, highlight that. If there's a ton of people asking if it can be used in Europe, maybe don't put that in the infographics if your market is the US, but put that in your sales copy, the bullets.
Right.
Make sure you answer all the questions that are being asked that are reasonable. Some people are not reasonable people and they ask off the wall questions. You'll know that because you'll only see those questions once or twice across all of your research.
Mhm.
The next thing is those bullets that pop up. They're very specific in what they're for. That's the sales pitch. So let me throw 2 things by you. If I tell you this board will ride you around town and never die, that might get you out of bed on Sunday to come look at my product if
Right.
you're looking for a board. If I tell you has a 20-volt battery, you don't care.
Right.
20-volt battery is never going to get you out of bed on Sunday morning to come look at what I got.
Mhm.
That is the litmus test that I use for all of those bullets. Is it going to get them out of bed on Sunday to come read this? If the answer is no, then it's not compelling enough. Once you put all of those things together, you look at, pull it up on your phone. Is it high res and is it zoomable? Because if something takes forever to load on the phone, or I can't see what I'm buying, it looks like a teeny thumbnail, right? It looks like my house from space, nobody's going to want it.
Right.
So once you put a lot of this stuff together, test the number, mark it down before, mark it down after, because even small percentage changes, right? When I was in school, if you got a 20%, they thought you were dumb. If you get 20% in this, you're brilliant. It's really hard to fail when 1 out of 5 people who see what you have buy your stuff.
Right.
So before you ever look at what's wrong with my ads, ask yourself, what's wrong with my content? and what's wrong that people aren't buying what I have to sell.
Love it. Love it there. Charles, that is awesome. We got to keep going to question number 3, and it is time for shout outs. So who are you shouting out today?
So Ivan Pashav he's a great friend of mine. He's done a lot of work in the solar industry, and he's worked with some pretty big names. I'd have to say, if I got to give a shout out, I love what he's doing. I love he's come from nothing, and he's so humble about it. So huge shout out to him.
Love it. Love it. I'll look him up. We're done here. Number 4, final fun question. Charles, tell me about your first sale.
So the first sale I ever had was actually probably the first sale many people had. My parents said that my bedtime should be 8. I didn't agree with this. And by the time I was done with my pitch, and I didn't even know what that word meant, they couldn't see any rational reason to make me go to bed at 8. So instead, I was allowed to choose my own bedtime. Now, my brothers had to go to bed at 8 because they couldn't make such an argument. And from that point, it really kind of instilled in me that people have their own conception or their own ideas of what works and what doesn't. Right. And if you can prove to them, not that their ideas are wrong, because they're never going to accept that, right, but there's a large number of benefits that they hadn't considered that maybe outweigh their notion, that goes a long way in making the sale.
It does. And that's one of my favorite stories. I like that one, the bedtime one. I'm going to start saying it when people ask, what's one of your favorite question number 4 stories? So you now have 1 minute and 55 seconds left. So Charles, you can do some promo time. You can ask me a question. You can talk about the weather, whatever you want. Or since the best know when to be concise and when to end early, we end early. Go for it.
So I'll actually ask you a couple of questions. Like, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast. I really enjoy that. When you hear these things, when you talk about these podcasts, and maybe this isn't something the other guests have asked you, what stands out in your mind? What really goes, man, I really love that. What does your audience love? And I like to ask this question to people because it allows me insight into the general populace, people that I don't get to talk to on a daily basis.
Well, I will tell you one of my personal favorite ones is I had a Benjamin, UK's worst salesperson, on the podcast. It was one of the very few podcasts I actually fanboyed for. I even told him that part around. I said, I'm fanboying just to let you know. And he was able to talk about how to get to the decision maker through a gatekeeper if you don't know the name. And he even told me, I loved it. He said, basically use the wrong name. And then when they correct you, because most people will, just say you're an idiot because you're looking at the wrong information. And I've actually, I've used it a couple of times and it works.
Yeah, I really like that. So that's the only question I had for you, Bob. Other Plugging Sellers Arena, hey, we're an agency. We're here. We do lots of PPC work. After you've listened to this and you put it in place, if it works for you, that's the tip of the iceberg. Come see what I got.
Love it. Love it. You pulled it off. 4 questions in 8 minutes and 8 seconds. Charles, why is it 8 minutes and 8 seconds?
Because 8 minutes and 8 seconds looks a lot like Bob.
It does. Love it. Their website. Say it real quick.
sellersarena.com.
It's in the description. It's magic. Charles, thank you so much for being on. Tip of the hat to you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And for everyone else watching or listening, I'm legally required to tell you to like, share, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, whatever the heck the social media network tells you all to do. You all have a good one now. Talk to you later. Bye.